Hi there. You've heard us talk about our Patreon a lot, but something that happens as a result of that is we create new content that goes to Patreon backers first, but then lands on our store for people to buy a little bit later. There's plenty of extra Duckfeed shows that you probably haven't heard, episodes, hours and hours of content that you can get by going to Duckfeed.tv/store. From premium episodes of Abject Suffering, our comedy show about bad games, to episodes of Try This, a show about recommending media to each other, where we've talked about things like Game of Thrones, Achewood, the Gunslinger comics, any of those. All the way to, like, say, Adaptation Decay, where we talk about good and or bad video game movies, efforts to take video games into different media. All of those can be found at duckfeed.tv/store. Go there, check that stuff out. We would love for you to hear that stuff. Thank you.
Some of our landings were desperate adventures. We are now prepared to meet the inevitable counterattacks with power and with confidence.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Kole Ross.
You're listening to Bonfireside Chat. It is a hyper light favorite.
And this week we are continuing our discussion of Hyper Light Drifter, a 2016 indie game for our Souls-like off-season, talking through kind of the remaining 3 areas of the game and the final boss and wrapping everything up. Last time we talked about the generalities. Go back and listen to that because it took up most of the episode and it's pretty important to some of the stuff we're going to talk about here.
Yes. Yeah. In general, with any multi-part things, don't start in the middle.
Yeah.
So we're going to get right to it. Starting with the... so I actually went east next. Cole went west, but I can talk about the west.
Yeah.
But some of our experiences will be different because by the time I got to the west, I was further upgraded. And by the time you got to the east, you were further upgraded.
Yeah. The west quickly kind of turns into this purple forest that has this kind of crystal corruption laying over these green energy crystals. This was actually originally inhabited by raccoons who, in their fight with these titans that we found kind of scattered all over the land, in their fight, they supercharged their weapons and as a result kind of caused these crystals to start spreading. And boy, is this scary. Not scary, but like upsetting.
Come on, buddy.
I'm so pooped.
The other person, like, come on, next crank. You can do better than that.
No. I mean, so scary. No, definitely not. But like the idea,
it's a little spooky. Like it's a little spooky.
Like,
creepy.
Yeah. I mean, like you see these bodies that are just completely grown over by these emeralds. You have these guys with crystal corruption on the back of them. You know, as they're going. It's it is a very Souls-like theme here, right?
Yeah. I really like running into the guys that are corrupted because they do a couple, like, there's no consequence to this, but they do a couple little tiny morality tests where there will be guys who are encapsulated with crystals, and the easiest way would be to slice through them, or you can find another way to get around them.
Yeah.
In order not to, maybe they're still alive in there. Maybe, we don't, I more or less went through this game knowing nothing about what was actually happening. I just knew, I knew what they tell you right at the beginning, like when you talk to the person who gives you the little intro thing that tells you that backstory.
Yeah.
So I knew that part, but that's really all I knew.
Yeah.
And you already know something's bad or something bad's going on when you first head this way because this is a high skull per capita kind of area.
Yeah.
As opposed to more, it's way more than the 1-to-1,
which is pretty funny because I think like per capita could also be called per head.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, they just got skull piles lying around. Yeah, this is like a hoarder home, except instead of newspapers from the 80s, it is raccoon heads that are that are floating around, not floating, laying around, and you have to kind of power through them in order to get your little health bits and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You kind of make your way, and all of these too, every one of these areas, we didn't really talk about in the last episode, but it has kind of a little precursor zone that tells you kind of the tone before you get to the teleporter.
Yeah.
That's in the middle, and that's going to be your actual hub within this branch. So this is the area on your way to get there.
Yeah.
Once you get there, there's a couple different gimmicks we're going to talk about that are here. Specifically, these spike strips on the ground. That again, they feel very gamey to me. It's very weird. Where there's like these sections of ground that have little bits of crystal, and if you stand on them, crystals grow and hurt you.
Yeah, I like, so this, if this was sold as like, hey, they're just waiting for a host to grow up and over, yes, fine. They articulate like Indiana Jones spear traps.
Yes.
That pop up. Again, it's area denial.
And it's not like you can get encapsulated in a crystal.
Yes.
In this game, in this area, which is really cool when it happens, but it doesn't do very much. I would have much liked this as, they were waiting for that host and had that been the consequence.
Yeah.
Rather than just getting damaged. I think that would have been pretty neat. And then it would have been, hey, these are going to hold you in place while you deal with other things.
Yeah.
Instead, they kind of end up being kind of Sun's Fortress-y, just kind of trap things.
Yeah.
For the most part.
There are some fun scenes with this, too, where like some of the little goblin enemies will charge at you, and they'll charge like headfirst into some of these. Like pretty early on when you're trying to deal with them, you understand, hey, they work against the other people, too.
Yeah, and that's actually, depending on which way you go through it, because this area is actually pretty maze-like, that can be the first time you see them, and that can be really useful.
Yeah.
Let's talk about those fucking wolves, man.
Those dogs. So again, these
I have a real hard time with these dogs.
Yeah,
these dogs.
There's something about their animation or the anticipation on their charge that doesn't work for me. Also, the fact that there are so many of them that are introduced at once.
They really hoard you. There's like weird little monster spawners. Every once in a while, there'll be a section of woods where just like, well, here's 30 dogs that come out of it. Maybe not 30, but like here's 10 dogs that come out of it.
Yeah.
And these got real tricky to me, and would be a real drain on my Estus, because if you miss one of them, if they do the charge and you don't hit it, while you're dealing with other ones, they will kind of rally to come around the other way from behind you, and they don't really slow down. Like they don't, have kind of a place to stop and kind of parry their charge or whatever if you don't get it on the first run.
Yeah.
They're a little bit like the crows. I mean, they're like the crow analog for this area, or the dive bombing birds. But I found them more frustrating.
Yeah. And they're often like thrown at you in these very tight areas that are very poorly lit as well. Like one of the node paths is this underground cave where they can just kind of sneak up on you or get behind you.
Yeah.
Kind of the other varsity level enemy here are these raccoon knights. Again, they've got the crystals growing on them, who attack you with these halberds. And these are the kind of similar to some of the like the big charging mammal guys up north. They will do these charges, and they're often kind of mixed up with these sniping goblins as well.
Yes. Yeah. And again, it's kind of cool. Like I like fighting the knights, but it does articulate the exact same way as the giant beast.
Yeah.
They're going to pause a second, charge forward, you dodge out of the way and hit them twice and move out of the way. And that's kind of how you deal with all of them. They mix it up with the snipers. They mix it up with different numbers. But this is the first kind of like repeated enemy we run into where they look different but accomplish the same function.
The first half of this area is mostly above ground in this forest maze, and they work the arenas in by kind of locking you in with crystal walls that'll grow up and will not go away until you defeat every wave of enemies.
Yeah. The crystals will actually regenerate the normal kind of environmental ones that hang around, which means that it is it made me think, again, I always hesitate to ascribe tutorializing to a game that lets you be nonlinear, but it seemed like if it were trying to teach a lesson, it would be about recharging your gun during off time, because you can do it kind of infinitely here.
Yeah.
So depending on when you come here and what you have, like I had the shotgun from going out east, and used it a lot. Like it was great for those wolves. You could wait for them to kind of get close, and you have this wide spread, so you're very unlikely to miss. And really took advantage of that. Like I didn't stay and farm, but the fact there's always crystals and they come back on my way back through meant I kind of kept up a full clip.
Yeah. Who knows? Again, who knows if that was intentional? But it works pretty well in this area because you're not dealing with an awful lot of projectile reliant enemies other than the snipers. Who are just kind of mixed in very, haphazardly or, very occasionally. So you can kind of rule the roost by being the person who has all the projectiles in an equation.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, eventually you get into this city, which acts as your hub here. And this has, you know, again, some very beautiful art. It needs to be reiterated here. Like, this is a fucking gorgeous area. And even the city that is, you know, overgrown with these crystals has that awesome, you know, ruined beauty kind of feel to it. The majority of the nodes that you're going to find are in this kind of prison complex that ends up being below the city and kind of extending out into the woods below the below your teleportation hub. And this is kind of a place that is riddled with these cells that are full of people. I don't know exactly what was going on here, other than they had some kind of revolt and tamped it down.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. It's I have no idea. I like the way the prison actually articulates gameplay wise.
Yeah.
Where you can you know, sometimes there'll be a treasure or something you maybe want in the cell, but opening it frees a bunch of goblins. Yeah, and that I like that kind of risk reward. Actually, there's some cells you can't get into until you get a key that I never actually got.
Yeah.
So some of the stuff I didn't explore. You know, the idea of like, because you can teleport around, and this is a very Dark Souls-esque problem. Like, other than kind of doing cleanup to get some more nodes, like I didn't do a lot of backtracking or revisiting areas in this game, like because I just didn't have to. Like the checkpointing and the teleporting around meant that I didn't need to.
Yeah.
And there's a couple like very, very small bits of like Dark Souls-esque kind of shortcut things where you loop back to where you were.
Yeah.
To kind of prevent that. So like it just, you know, I in my mind I was like, oh, I don't have that key yet. I could come back, and then it's like, well, what could I get? You know, like I don't really need, you know, getting half a battery or getting a healing item or another node at this point is unnecessary.
Yeah. So it's there for people who are completionist or people who want to get access to some of those costumes that you may be able to go for.
Yeah.
Yep. So this area also introduces invisible bridges that are kind of over there. I don't particularly care for these because you can almost always only find them by accident.
I think they're bad.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if they're introduced here because there's as far as I know they're in every area. Yeah. I think that we maybe missed them because they're hidden.
Yeah.
Your little option buddy will come and grab them for you and show you that they're at. If you get close enough, it'll kind of float above them. Yeah. But the issue is they won't do it on the way back, which is very weird. Like you'll take this invisible bridge to a hidden island with some treasure. On your way back, your little guy won't grab the thing. So like in this area, I ended up just kind of drifting out into nothingness, trying to remember where the bridge was. And then when you land on it, it will highlight all the individual steps.
Yeah. They'll like light up underneath you. Hey, just remember where they're at, thinking man.
Yeah. Fuck you.
We got to keep our knives sharp, man.
Yeah, I know. Knives out. Yeah, the best song from the Ancient City soundtrack.
Yup.
But so I don't really like them either. You like them in Dark Souls? Not really. No, like I also don't love them in Dark Souls either. I think that they're kind of like arbitrary and silly.
Yeah. You know, and mostly what's on the other side of them, if it's not leading you to a module, again, you're kind of following your vague map to find them. It's just more upgrade kind of stuff, which is useful and good if you're on the right part of the power curve on the way to it.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But it's hard to like call out any particular arenas here because again we've talked about the component parts and the ways that they interact are very hard to communicate just by describing them.
Yeah, I mean you move kind of from encounter to encounter. This one's a little bit more maze-like. Yes. You know, it's just a little bit more about finding these little hidden paths in the woods or behind buildings and stuff like that in this ruined city and prison area that you're in. But there's not a whole lot to the kind of moment-to-moment flow other than those new elements that are introduced.
Yeah.
We run into Pink Ranger again, who tells you his little story. And this time about fighting the swamp worm.
Yeah.
That he did.
I want to fight this swamp worm, man.
I was surprised. It was like a real Chekhov swamp worm.
Yeah.
At a point. I was like, I'm going to fight a swamp worm at the end of
this. But no, he defeated the swamp worm, I guess. Yeah. I'm not quite sure. At one point he's glowing, and then at one point the other one's glowing. I
don't know really what's going on with that either. The Midgard's lives. But I don't know why.
Yeah.
But eventually you make your way through this again, through prisons and stuff. Takes more time than we're really giving it.
Yes.
credit for. And there are a couple of like individual encounters in here that are actually kind of good, mostly revolving around kind of traps or situations where there are like ambushes or areas of crystal you can get behind that are secrets that don't seem like you can.
But everything is kind of leading to this really fun boss fight. I love the Hanged Man, Gary.
I like all that. Yeah, I mean, I said, I like all the boss fights.
They're all really good, but this one, it feels very dually to me.
It's very dually. The one thing I will say is that his kind of combo move that he has, his like multiple charge thing, is pretty punishing if you don't have the upgrade that lets you dash multiple times, because he can do it. So it doesn't feel like I really enjoyed fighting this guy, but I recognized during it that I was like, man, I can only really do this because I can dash multiple times. Yeah. If I came to this first, like I would just kind of be fucked.
Yeah.
How would I get away? Like you just wouldn't.
I suppose that's right, because I came here second, and that multiple dash, per your advice, was one of the first things that I grabbed.
So it just, again, it's one of those rough edges that just kind of speaks to like a weird kind of inelegance to the game, or like just, all those verbs maybe should have been there from the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and, maybe the ability to reflect projectiles changes other fights in a way that one, like in a similar way. Like it's hard not to feel it with that combo pattern, because like most of the time, unless you're overwhelmed with a bunch of dudes, dodging these charges is not that big of a deal. But like to actually not have the verb that lets you match him move for move, it's a little much, probably.
I think so. I think it's a little punishing to get out of his way with one dodge. We actually forgot about an enemy in this area, the crystal golems.
Oh, should I forget? Yep.
I like those things. I think it's a very successful large enemy, more so than the beasts that dodge, because you actually have to approach them differently. Mm-hmm. Like I think this is a tactically sound kind of enemy, because they kind of tromp around and eventually create these AoEs around themselves that sometimes will send lines of shards out at you. Mm-hmm. But they don't have like a melee attack when you're close to them. So it's about they have tons of health. So you have to get in and chip away at them and know when to pull back. So you fight them in like a different way. They feel very different than fighting other enemies in this game.
Yeah.
I ended up really liking those guys.
Yep. Sorry, I forgot to put them in the notes.
No, it's okay. I just remembered it because I was reading ahead to see what happens to our Hanged Man buddy.
Yeah.
So what else does the Hanged Man do?
So the Hanged Man has that combo. In addition to that, he has kind of this spread where he will put put his halberd in the ground and make crystals appear in like a star pattern, spreading out, and also lobbing these energy orbs at you. So if you come at him with the ability to reflect those energy orbs and the ability to dodge around, like you have a counter for most everything that he does.
Yeah. It's a really good fight. He's very aggressive too. Yeah. Compared to, like, he moves towards you a lot. He gets up in your face. Mm-hmm. More so than the other fights we've had.
Yeah. So the effect is you kind of chase him around until the dash timer or whatever runs out, and he decides to do these little area denial things, and that gets you into a position where you can get a couple of free hits in.
Yeah.
Yep. When you kill him, I love his death animation, because the crystal that is kind of riding along on his back spreads around and brutes him to the ground, and he splits in half. So, well, shit, the Raccoon King's dead.
Yep. All hail the Raccoon King.
Yeah, that's fine.
I guess I don't know. I'm so sad about him.
There's pathos to it.
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of some pathos to it. I had a hard time caring about anything in this world, really.
Yeah.
At least for me. But he splits in half. It's really cool. This one has a long kind of tail after the boss.
Yeah.
After the pillar. And we did mention last time, after you activate the pillar, you get a little cutscene of your guy dying from the black, tech monster.
Yes. Yeah.
In various gruesome ways. Like sometimes it rips you in half. Sometimes it kind of drowns you. Things like that. Mm-hmm. That happens here. And then there's, again, a long tail. You kind of move through a long area. They introduce these little bite enemies that kind of come. You know what I'm talking about? It's in the black area here, the dark area.
Yeah. There we go. They show up in the south too.
Yeah. They're cross-pollinated, and they're just little annoying twerps. But you're doing this kind of platforming section in the dark. Mm-hmm. That these guys will kind of ambush you when you land on a new platform. And there is knockback and a little bit of movement that happen. They're very, very narrow platforms.
Yeah.
And if you use your gun to try to, hit them to create your landing zone, or use your sword, you'll kind of shunt yourself backwards and fall off.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot about the dark platforming, but yes, it like that is in the interstitial between the boss and the monolith here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not my fave.
So let's go over to where you went second, but I went third. Yes. The east section, which is this incredibly pleasant, well-lit lake.
But which I love it because it's very beautiful, and then there are like just corpses floating in the water.
Yeah. So you're going along like this is like a swamp town. This is like Angkor Wat. This is Izalith in its prime. Almost, right? You're just like, lily pads and little stepping stones, and there's
the color palette
a
of this area looks like Titan Souls to me.
Yeah,
is what I reminded me of.
Yeah, a lot of this feels a little bit like Titan Souls.
A little bit, at least graphically, some of the color choices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but this place originally inhabited by the otters before the frogs rose up and took over. You'll recall this from the 75th Redwall book.
Yeah, just help. Help, I'm running out of animals is the name of that book. Yeah. I don't know what else to do. I don't mind if things are animals, but it does, the fact that they are frog ninjas does make this less cool to me. I can't necessarily explain what it is, but the fact that these are all animal people does feels weirdly totally inconsistent with the Titans and Tech Virus.
Yeah.
To me,
it does
It
undercuts the tragedy of what happens. We're in these ruins, but we also have pink frogs that are throwing ninja stars. I think the ninja stars is what actually bugs me.
The ninja stars
are
the ninja stars and the rice paddy hat is a really big part of it.
Yeah,
the fact that they have this very, very earthly kind of signifiers.
Yeah.
To them, there's just not enough. So much of this game is so beautiful and alien until a talking bird shows up, and then it just becomes, Redwall-y. In this weird I don't know, it doesn't, that part of it doesn't really work for me. I talk about the individual enemy designs and that kind of stuff not being my favorite. They're beautifully animated, they're beautifully colored and kind of rendered, but they're not what they actually are. Is a big reason why there's a failure to tug my heartstrings in this game.
Yeah,
I like a peaceful frog people, but to me if in a human world where you come across a peaceful frog village, that would be more meaningful than it's just a world of animals and these are the frogs and these are the raccoons and these are the birds. That makes it just seem a little sillier and kiddier to me, that in a way that doesn't really work.
So yeah, in the last episode when I was laughing and saying, oh yeah, it's kind of awesome, it is just looking at the thing as a thing and laughing at the ridiculously of the thing. It doesn't square away with the surroundings of it.
Yeah, especially the frogs. I would say that the b-boy skeleton, the b-boy birds, b-boy skeletons, good.
No, we're fine. Yeah, just put those anywhere.
They're part of it. But
just scatter those things around like Parmesan cheese. Can't go wrong.
The b-boy birds, they're just kind of wearing a cloak, so it's maybe not as big of a thing. But this is just very. They're frog ninjas. It is, they explicitly throw ninja stars.
There's very little. There's no real other way to read that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Bums me out.
Yeah, but they're fun fights. They're very fast. They leap around. Their spread shot on the shurikens is pretty good. It's just the theming that's a little bit jarring. Let's say it interrupts the pattern.
Well, then those bandit frogs that throw the bullet hell 5-way shot bomb things.
Yeah.
Mixed with it. So this is the most bullet helly area up until Turret Palooza down to the south. And this is those things mixed up together. This was my first run at the game. I played on normal before they patched in iframes and went here, and that's when I quit. And I was
this. No, that's a bit much.
We'll do this for the show, and I don't like this enough to play it twice. I'll muscle through for the show.
Mm-hmm.
But then again they made those changes, and I feel like we're probably both coming out a little bit more negatively than I actually am on the game.
Mm-hmm.
This is a solid B+ to me. I had a lot of fun with it. It's very beautiful.
Yeah.
It is jank. There's some jank and some rough edges that I think are worth talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it's just places where it doesn't hang together. As we were talking about last episode, it's mostly the meta stuff in between these little scenarios.
Yeah. Which are, and most of the time are fun. Like sometimes some of these arenas are too much and it's like a real pain in the dick. And I'm like, this sucks. And I should start with full S at the beginning of this.
Yeah.
And this is just, I'm too zoomed in to do these dodges. Things like literally these little problems with that. And then, but other times they're great and fun.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, don't take us being critical as saying this is not worth playing. What we're doing is bitching about a pebble in our shoe.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot of pebbles in a very nice shoe, like a very beautiful, beautiful shoe.
Yeah.
Those weird art people that collect shoes. Shoes.
Yeah, those people everybody knows.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, people collect, like, this is a limited edition Nike shoe that's like $3,000.
Yeah.
It just looks like a shoe to me, man.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm happy you're happy.
Yeah. The way this area, at the very least, the way it articulates hidden places is different. It's not so much about pushing through foliage or going around cliff walls and stuff. It's more about hey, there's a boat like just at the edge of my leap distance.
Yeah. And
when you jump to that boat, you can now get to another shore that has hidden stuff.
Yeah. Or like there's a very tiny piece of like rock cropping up, right at the edge of that. And also the doors kind of blend into the architecture a little bit more. So there were a couple times where like I was just walking past the place where I needed to go, and I just needed to acclimate to the way that those were signaled. Yeah.
Yep.
There's an NPC who gives you an image of the boss, showing you this cyber frog, this transplant from Blaster Master, that is kind of acting as a tyrant over this entire place as you get into the city, and then eventually get to your area. The toughest enemies, at least for me in this place, were these let's say Venus flytrap bowls that would charge at you.
Yeah, whatever these plant things are. Again, they articulate the same way. Anything that waits a second then charges at you.
Yeah.
So it didn't feel that differently to me, but what they are actually mixed up with it made it different.
Yeah, so they're mixed up with again, more of these snipers, more of just these regular rank and file goblins.
Well, the exploding plant things were the big thing for me, like the grenade things.
Yeah, the grenade things. And these guys, it stuck out worse for me. I don't know if it's actually any different. How much health they had versus how much damage they would do to me.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. I didn't love those guys either. I just feel like they weren't that much harder than anything else that charges at me in this game. Yeah. Some of the arenas are smaller. When you first go to the first underground area, the first time you run into these guys, actually, it's a very small arena because the walls actually open up, but they're not flush with the sides of the screen.
Yeah.
You probably have something like 75% of your normal screen to take care of it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, and they love mixing these guys in.
Yeah.
As they do. So as you're going up and down, and again, you just have this mix between above ground and below ground, you see the remains of the Titan kind of sticking up from the marsh, which again, you end up navigating around it. Very cool, very affecting. Don't know what it means, for sure anyway.
Yeah. I love it. Anyway, they build stuff around it, which is really cool. Like it's a great image. And the music, there's always a music sting. Like as much as I said, the music doesn't really work for me. There's always a cool music sting when the camera pans over to show one of these. Yeah. That actually is like really cool and affecting. It's like the sound effect stuff I like in the game, more than anything. So you're going, above ground and below ground, mostly below ground in this like kind of cyber complex to fight cyber frogs. Cyber ninja frogs, kind of going through. This is where I bounced off the first time I played. So there's two. There's that first arena with the bowl plants. There's another one up above, kind of the upper left of that. That was another arena you run into that like made me tear my hair out. So this is the one I have the most like memories of being very hard, even though that was just from playing on hard mode with no upgrades.
Yeah.
I was a little bit more upgraded by the time I got here, and you were much more upgraded.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. They also introduced these environmental hazards. So there are two of them. There are different kinds of turrets. There are dragon turrets that will spit flame kind of in intervals. So you have to kind of dodge past them in their patterns. In addition to, instead of having disappearing floors, they have floors that are littered with little flamethrowers, and they will you can be on them for just a moment before they damage you. And they really love making you work for your upgrade points by chain dashing across them.
I hate these things.
Yeah, me too.
Like I hate the section, the very specific thing where you're going from platform to platform.
Yeah.
That's on fire because you run out of stamina.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're like going to get hit. You're going to take some damage.
Yeah.
Here you can't. You have to go through. It's like a grid of 4 by maybe 6 of these things, like vertically, and there are walls between them as well. So you can't just make a beeline for the thing. You have to kind of navigate this maze, but you just don't have the stamina for it. I literally have no idea how you're supposed to get to that upgrade.
Right.
I tried a lot.
Me too.
And I was just like, fuck this. Like, man, like, is this, if the idea is I'm supposed to feel really cool when I do this, I do not feel cool pausing to get set on fire and heal through it and hope that my Estus lasts until I get to the end of it.
Yep. And the solution to it is to, just master the timing of these chain runs.
Yeah.
But it feels very finicky. I never quite got, because like the timing accelerates. You have to do it like very slow at first, so you don't kind of like double dash on the same move. And then like once you get to a certain point beyond a certain number of dashes, it's just a consistent rhythm. But like getting up to that point and breaking that plane was very difficult for me, and I never quite managed to do it while also making sure that I only dashed in the right directions.
And it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Like you get 1/4 of an upgrade.
Yep.
It's like you'll get enough there. Even that dashing in the right directions thing is tough too. Like when you're on a big open playfield, and you don't need that precision. But I found it very difficult to like dash in a 90-degree, a cardinal way.
Yeah.
In this game, and that's just analog controllers. That's fine. But just the precision needed while under that pressure, and again, it's an optional treasure pickup, so it can be hard, but
yeah, I
found this very frustrating. And there are parts of the level you have to navigate that are similar to this. They're not for an optional treasure.
Yeah.
And I also found a little bit frustrating.
Yeah.
Eventually, so you're picking up nodes, grab the nodes. You get your nodes, and you can make your way up to the boss of this area, up top, which is the Emperor.
This is the aforementioned Techno Frog.
Yeah, Large Frog sent you.
Yep. And this is a relatively easy boss because he's very ungainly. With the way that he goes. So Gigantic Frog, he has kind of like a half Kano face a little bit, and his primary attacks are to spit jars at you, which makes us feel very 8-bit themed a little bit. Yeah. But he also spits up little exploding organs.
Yes. Yeah. So he's kind of doing big area denial with explosions is his big thing.
Yeah.
He is pretty easy. He can also do this kind of leap and stomp attack, kind of do these melee things, but he's pretty slow. Like he's the tank boss. I think he's widely considered to be the easy boss, which is why conventional wisdom says to go east first, even though the stage is pretty hard.
Yeah, the level is so much harder, so you just have to choose which one you want to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it made sense to go here second with being able to reflect those reflect the bullets at this point made a really, really big difference, making this doable in some of those little bullet hell areas.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yep. So you have to go through all 3 of those areas that we've talked about before in order to unlock the South Path, which is where a lot of the story kind of comes together, even if you don't realize it is. And also where you can get your last nodes to power it up. This place is just gated.
This is a big desert. So you're kind of going through these different biomes. They're all very clear and distinct, which I like.
Yeah. This is a place that was originally inhabited by lizard people, and they were doing all kinds of research and manufacturing. Most of this area is a factory beneath the sands until they kind of built this titan that took them over.
Yeah. I really like the little tech like option things that are floating around, scanning the ground.
Yep.
Here, the above ground has no enemies.
Yeah.
In this area, which I really like.
Yeah, it's a nice change of pace because it puts all the complexity below ground and it keeps the theming and kind of tragedy up top.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like you find your pink drifter here, and they're collapsed, and they kind of tell their story. Like it gives you the pictograms of their family dying and them deciding, to go on this quest so that, they don't die of the same thing. And also so nobody else has to die of this same thing, presumably. Again, there's a little bit of a reach there, but like, Pink Drifter has been a solid bro this entire time.
Yeah. Yeah. He might as well drift. Is his my family's dying.
Yep.
I'm a lover. I'm a grifter. I'm a hyperlight drifter. And I make my loving on the run. Like, yeah.
I'm a loner, Dottie, a drifter.
Yeah. Hyperlight drifter. Essentially you're just going into underground areas.
Yes. It's one big like interconnected complex. There are a couple of different elevators that give you kind of entrance to this place. And the gating in this is pretty important. They're very liberal with their use of, doors that you can only get through if you have a certain number of modules at your disposal.
Yep. The underground section is this little, like I said, little factory. This is Turret City. Lots of robots that you're fighting.
Yeah.
So these little robot guys that will shoot 3-way beams at you, or three bullets at you.
Yeah.
But other than that are just robots.
Yep. Little sprite guns. Also your self-destruct toasters that we mentioned before, and disturbingly little embryos that crawl after you as well.
Yeah, little flopping, little flippy floppies.
Yeah.
They do a cool thing here where I love the mimic.
Yeah. That's a little further down. This is the summoner boss. So if you're following the map that shows you where all the modules are, the first one, one of the first ones you're likely to get to that isn't gated behind a bunch of stuff feels a little bit too easy.
Yeah, you go into it and the music changes, a door closes behind you. Like, it's pretty obvious something's going to happen.
Yep.
It's still a cool set piece, though.
Yeah.
Because there are like a bunch of bosses here. Like, this is like the mini boss rush.
Yeah.
From here into kind of the end of, this area, that's the theme, I guess, of this area. Lots of bosses. So you pick up the little canister in the ground and it explodes into the summoner, which is a robot that kind of floats around very smoothly and summons little tiny option robots.
Yeah.
To shoot at you.
Yep, and he will summon more and more, and each of them has, will complicate the pattern and add more noise into what you have to deal with.
They can individually be killed, but it's hard to do, and he will resummon them. So, sometimes I got some of them out of the way through collateral damage, but it's not worth focusing fire on them.
Right. So just like as you're cutting a line straight through to your dude, you just kind of have to hope that your projectile reflection will catch one of them as collateral. This
literal
is fun.
God help you if you didn't have that.
Oh yeah.
Like, I have no idea. Again, that like the way I have no idea how you're supposed to play this without these verbs that you have to buy.
Yeah. Like maybe it would be it'd be doable if there's probably a line you can dash through them if you have that particular upgrade. But this is it feels mandatory to be able to reflect.
Yeah. Like at least mandatory for like a good, like I found this challenging and fun.
Yes.
Like this was my, out of all the bosses, other than the last boss, which took me a couple tries.
Yeah.
I didn't die on any bosses after the first one, but I did get down to my like last hit.
Yeah.
Dark Souls style. Like, I have a sliver of HP and no Estus.
Yeah, by the skin of your teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was really well balanced for that, but I had this full complement of verbs.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. This guy is pretty fun. You don't have to fight all of these little mini bosses. It's necessary for an insultingly named achievement. But
what is the achievement name?
It's called Bully.
Oh,
and it calls you a bully for killing them. It's like they're in the way of the modules, man. Come on.
Yeah, I like, what was I supposed to do instead? I need to get these modules. You're the game that made me get all the modules.
Yep.
How many robots were alive when you came here yesterday? How many do you think will be alive tomorrow?
Yep. Yeah. I love the theming of this area because there is an awful lot of amoral super science happening. Like there are museum displays with the skeletons of all of the other races of animals that you've seen before. There are like north of the summoner room. There's just like two tubes full of these gigantic mechanical eyes. You find out that all of the orc things that you've been fighting, little goblins, are grown here in tubes.
You also it's also showing the kind of banality of that because there are desks everywhere.
Yep.
Like there's all this like dead people at desk where they were doing work about this, and that's it's a real kind of obvious expression of it. But just having black science next to just like somebody has to fill out the paperwork for it.
Yeah.
Is cool and resonant to me.
Yeah, and also just like the more mundane kind of Warframe kind of guys that are hung up on like the racks and the hangers and stuff. Like throughout the world, we've seen a couple of these like Magitech armor things like laced about. Like most of the technology that either we're using or that we've encountered dead or that contributed to the state of the world as it is right now came from here.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So way into it.
Yeah. So you're pretty much just following this chain of modules, past all this black science and running into these mini bosses. You get to the next one, the Archer.
This is possibly the main boss of the area. Like he is the one who is guarding. He or she is the one who's guarding the monolith that you have to raise here. But there are going to be more. Like I found it relatively early in the level, but like there were more modules to get.
Yeah, I didn't. This was not the one. So I ended up only fighting 3 of these bosses to get my module path. And this one, I fought this one here, and then fought Reaper next. But Reaper was the last one I fought. I never fought Sorcerer.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. So the Archer's fun. This is a very nimble enemy who will dash around and fire off these rapid fire arrows. The thing that makes them tricky is they will occasionally darken the screen and fire arrows up that will turn into mines on the ground. And if you don't deal with those or run into them, they just very cannily restrict the paths in which you can dash around and avoid the attacks.
Yeah. I got hit by them a lot.
Yeah.
By the mines and stuff. I still made it through because at this point I was, again, arguably OP because that's the weird difficulty curve of this game, and I could just heal 5 times and be okay. But I got hit by the mines an awful lot. I don't know, does he shoot the mines? It felt like they would blow up when I was near them sometimes without touching them.
He doesn't shoot them to blow them up. He like that's how he deploys them is to shoot them to set them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I would not always touch them and have them blow up.
Yeah. I have no idea. I never figured out a perfect way to deal with them besides just hoping and praying that I could dodge them effectively.
Yeah. But.
Yep. So is there anything more to say about the Archer?
No.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else to say about him.
Yeah.
You get the pillar. You don't have all your nubs here. Actually, so when I got this pillar, because I did have to come back here, I didn't realize that you had to get all the donguses in addition to the pillars.
Yeah.
I was just like, and it's a little bit of like kind of a weird artificial way to enforce exploration, I think.
Yeah.
To make you get them all. Like, why wouldn't you have it so you have to get 4 of them and that opens up the boss door?
Yeah.
I just don't know what it necessarily added because, and it's not just me. Like I've talked to other people too, where like, oh, I thought I was done. I went back to the main town, nothing changed. Mm-hmm. I went on Google and it said, oh, you didn't get enough modules.
Yep. And the only way that signals it is they're, on each of the, like that big pattern in the central town, at each of the extremities, there are 4 lights that will light up or will go out or something. Like it signals it that way, but like you never want to get into that Wind Waker kind of, fail condition where if you weren't paying enough attention, you have to go back through the entire world to get what you need to enter the final act.
It's you can definitely see that you're missing a thing, but it just I fought the 4 bosses at the different places. Mm-hmm. That seems correct.
Yeah,
to me like that.
You're like I'm probably justified in believing that because I've brought that assumption in from a lot of other games that I've played.
Yeah, I've played games before. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So this is where I came back and had to I was like, why can't I move forward, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Came back and had to do this again.
Yeah. So the eastern wing of this lab and factory is a little bit less kind of dark science themed and a little bit more bullet helly. The place is full of these light walls. It's kind of gated in a strange way. A lot more turrets here. They have rocket launcher enemies with these bull skulls that will shoot not homing but seeking kind of things. They'll curve around you. And you're also dealing with a lot of disappearing bridges and spread shots. Like this is maybe not the most difficult that it gets, but like they're incorporating a lot more elements than they've incorporated previously in the game.
Yeah, I found this really tricky.
Yeah.
All the different turret zones through here, and the introduction to the rocket launcher enemy, which I hate.
Yeah.
Because it homes on you. It homes for a very long time, and they immediately introduce him. You can't reflect it. They introduce him without doing the game design thing of showing him in like a low risk environment. Mm-hmm. He shows up immediately while you're doing platforming. Yeah. Which is always, you're going to get hit for 2 points, then fall into the pit for a point. Yep. Kind of no matter what. Yeah. He's not introduced in a good game design way, I feel like. And there's only like 3 of them in the game. Like, they don't show up very often. Yeah. But they are a huge pain in the dick. Yeah. Dislike them.
Let's talk about these 2 remaining mini-bosses. First being the Reaper. Quite literally, it is a robot that wears, again, another rice picker hat, and is our Plague Knight, almost.
Yeah. Throws a big scythe that spins around.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. I let you get away with that. I got that on vinyl. I bought a little record player so I could listen to it.
Oh, yeah. You told me about that. How was it?
It's very nice. It's like fun to like... I mean, it's still just the Shovel Knight soundtrack I could listen to anywhere. Uh-huh. It's just kind of fun to like pull out this like big, beautiful blue record. Yeah. Put it on and then just like listen to the first side of this thing. Yeah. No, it's the ritual, right? Yeah. I think I'm going to become like record guy. Not like fancy record guy because I have a shitty record player, but what I'm into it is not the sound quality. It's this physicality and like dedication. Yeah. When Transacted did their charity auction last year, the thing I bought from it had a bunch of records too that I hadn't got a chance to play. So I had to listen to a bunch of things, and I found out that there's one Thermal song I like, and I was like, oh, the Thermals are cool. And then I went online, and I'm like, oh no, they're not. I just like that song. I was pretty excited because the single that I have, I was like, this is really good. Yeah. And up my alley, and I thought I would be way into it, but then their most popular, like 10 most popular songs on Apple Music, I thought were bad. Yeah. So.
Yep. No, I've been tempted to do that too. I had one hand-me-down record player from my parents that ended up just being a real dud. But like I have records, but most of them are just things that I bought to have signed because I don't know. Yeah. For some reason, having them sign a CD feels a little chintzy.
Yeah. So like it's a nice object. Like, and that's it's what a weird. I wonder if people who are like futurists who predicted the rise of like digital media. Also predicted the rise of like wanting to have a trophy, like the kind of the increased value of having like vinyl and cassette tapes and stuff, because it is a imperfect, physical, inconvenient way of doing it, but it has this kind of like I will buy it like a record, or I will buy I don't have a tape player, but like I'm gonna get one now because I'm on this weird kind of pretentious shitty hipster kick, but right. I won't buy like a CD though. I need a CD. So I wonder if that was ever part of the kind of forecasting for this, because it's an interesting side effect that's like 100% a thing.
Yeah. Well, CDs are a thing in audiophile world. A thing that I actually learned is that original PlayStations are coveted by audiophiles, because apparently the laser transfer carriage is something that provides a cleaner sound off of this digital thing. Oh wow! Audiophile is like audiophile stuff is fucking ridiculous. But like I've seen all of these. I've seen all of these just like beautiful stereo rigs that just sitting on top of it is that awful 1995 piece of gray plastic. That's kind of phenomenal. I wonder if the laptop PS1, like the small one, has the same rig, because I think that thing's kind of aesthetically pleasing. Oh yeah, or not the one that was oftentimes packed. Like you could buy the little laptop for it, but the little tiny. Oh yeah, the PSONE. Yeah, like the PS1. I think that thing's really cute. Yeah, I kind of dig that. And you can still find PlayStations around. I see them at thrift stores all the time. Yeah, maybe that's worth looking into, because it's like. Again, but I'm not an audiophile. I just think it's kind of cute. Yeah, that's the thing. Like you would just need to do that for just because you liked that, instead of having a regular CD deck on there. It would just be the fun of like turning on this thing using a controller. Yeah. To like start it up and everything. It's just kind of novel to me. Yeah. If you got that because the CD the CD transfer carriage produced a cleaner digital signal, I would have to throw eggs at you, Gary. Yeah, you always, as well you should. And then you'd mention one fact about Dragon Ball, and I'd fucking pants you. Well, then I would throw eggs at you, pantsless friend.
Yeah, the Cold War continues. No matter who wins in that, like it's a real AVP thing if we're trying to get into who deserves to be dorked out harder.
The person who watched Dragon Ball when they were 12.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you were also watching Mama's Family and shit. So like, let's not.
Well, I mean, let's not muddy the issue. We have to. Yeah. we have to keep the things we throw eggs at each other for pure and separated. Yeah. Otherwise, everything's going to be confused.
I'm listening to this vinyl on like it's like a $30 combo record player.
Yeah,
like it is 100% not the. But like I have no audiophileness. It's totally the ritual.
Yeah, it's the ritual, and like the albums that I have are like my favorite ones, the ones that I've like gotten signed. So like Transcendental Youth by the Mountain Goats. Like I had John Darnielle sign that at a live show, and like if I could listen to that, I really would. Right now, it's just hanging up on a wall, but who knows?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's going to be I can imagine a life where this becomes a thing for me.
Yeah.
I've been digging through vinyl too at their stores when I've gone, and like it's kind of amazing.
It's mostly like Chuck Mangione shit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so weird how garbagey it is. Every once in a while you find like a good like 60s band.
Uh-huh.
It's like, oh, like here's a Paul Simon record.
Yeah.
Like I like Paul Simon a lot.
Yeah.
But mostly and then so much religious media.
Yeah.
Like so much like just choral things like that. It's just kind of crazy how much these huge box sets of just religious music.
I've wasted so much time looking at the media in thrift stores, but like all of the vinyl music has been picked over, and what's left is the is the music equivalent of like 70s hotel art.
Yeah. It's still fun to dig through in case I find something weird.
Yeah.
But I almost bought this is a long tangent. I almost bought a thing about it was a record pressing of a guy testifying to Congress about the corruption of youth, and it wasn't the famous like comic book one. It wasn't that.
Yeah,
there's another one, but it was just like, why was this put on record? Like it had a cover, like somebody published it. It had a picture of the guy on the front, and it's like my testimony to Congress about the corruption of youth.
Oh, you could do a real good like ironic Avalanches style remix with that.
Well, that was the thing. It's like, how deep do I want to go? Because I could get this and like try to cut it up or do something. But then I was like, it'd be so much easier if I just found it on YouTube. And
I know, right?
So like it is the convenience is not what I want from this. It's the inconvenience, and for something like that, I need convenience. So
a sound guy who used to work at my day job office. He really he had like this collection of sound effects records.
Oh yeah.
And so like you'd pick those up and look at the back, and it had like let's say like 23 tracks, and it was like seagull, agitated, seagull, placid.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'll keep an eye out for that.
Let's walk this backward. Agitated seagull, $30 combo player, Shovel Knight, the Reaper, our Spectre Knight friend, whose primary attack is to kind of send out this laser scythe in circular patterns.
Yeah. There's not too much to him other than that, really.
Yeah.
He's hard to get close to.
Mm-hmm.
And he does that area now with that. Tell me about the Sorcerer, because I did not fight the Sorcerer.
Okay. So the Sorcerer, you're really fighting against the room more than anything?
I'm not a bully.
What?
I said I'm not a bully.
Oh, yeah, I'm a bully. I'm a terrible person. No, so you're mostly fighting against the room in this because you can see the patterns on the floor where the floor is going to drop away, and as the fight progresses, he will change the arena on you. And the main thing that he does for you, or does to attack you, is either to again do more of these disco floors, or to shoot these large energy balls. So you have to kind of navigate in this harder version of the first boss fight that we talked about, the Hierophant, or the Hierophant, or whatever you want to say. Get close to him enough in order to do the right amount of attacks. There are very few opportunities to recharge your guns, so there's not much opportunity for range combat beyond your initial clip. So yes, this is mostly like a navigation challenge.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Yep.
I wish I would have experienced that. I don't know. There's something hidden or some door I didn't go through.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you found one of the hidden modules, there was no reason for you to go that much further beyond the Reaper.
Yeah.
If that was the last
module. I wasn't going to collect everything.
Yeah. And it just worked out that the Sorcerer, got me my last module for this.
So then once you go back to town, you can actually move forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is the story so far. This is kind of assembled. There's a 10-minute video that I watched for this by a YouTube person who goes under the name Local Content. And so I want to make sure that I cite this. I've stripped out some of the supposition on the back of it. Mm-hmm. But let's see here. The way this works is, so if you activate all of these, you can kind of piece the story together and get the simple narrative. If you've activated the monoliths, you've seen these ghostly people, and presumably you're reading in their language. That is what you're decoding. These librarians, they're an ancient race who kind of created the Titans, but then fell to them. And in the wake of their society, these new animal races, took over, picked up their research, and started looking at the energy source to put together some kind of, super weapon, something about immortality, something related to that, kind of guided by or maybe in opposition to this jackal god, the jackal who's been luring you around.
Yeah, your cosmic.
Your cosmic coyote. So things went wrong. And the tie between this world and the afterlife was severed, and along with this kind of perfect energy cell, Judgment was created. Judgment being the final boss of the game, but also this dark energy monster that is attacking you and also kind of has infected all of your people.
Yeah, and is the disease.
Yes, the disease, yeah. So this created kind of that web of energy that is over the central city and the continent. The Local Content calls this the wellspring, and all the new people tried to hide the cell as Judgment raised the Titans, and the battle between the Titans and all of these people either caused the areas to fall, such as with the Western Forest, or indirectly led to the terrible situations or privation that led say the North and the East to fall as well. And so in the beginning, when we see those Titans come back and we see the ocean of blood and we see our drifter being infected, like this is the stuff that led directly up to that. And you are working in league with the jackal to try and put the cell down in order to, stop Judgment and kind of hit the reset button.
Yeah, I'll buy it.
Yep.
Like I'll watch that video. I didn't watch it beforehand. I think that, this game would be, we talked about the oblique storytelling, and I wanted to kind of stress how oblique it is, because that stuff didn't come through to me at all.
No.
Before you watch the video, how much of that do you think that you absorbed from it?
I got the very blurry, large shapes of it. The stories of what happened in each of the individual spokes was just a little bit more clear. When I got to the south, things got a little bit more clear, a little bit more in focus for the meta story, just because I saw that they were, putting together these pieces, and the patterns and the colors and structures looked a little bit more like this, the stuff that I was seeing in the visions.
Yeah, I felt like I knew the disease kind of part of it. Like I was like, okay, this is this thing that is attacking him as a disease. A little bit about the the origins of that. I knew about this force worker that this little jackal or your little buddy is, but other than that, I didn't really get it. And I think that it is very obscure. I don't necessarily think the game would be better if it was more hyper, more less liminal. I also don't think it would be worse if it wasn't really a thing either.
Yeah.
Knowing what the story is doesn't sound like an original cool story to me.
No,
the way that it's hidden is frustrating to me. Hiding it around that cipher language.
Yeah, not just in this thing you need to decode, but also you have to decode what you decode. This very oblique, very fragmented, stilted. It's more just adjectives strung together to create a mood. It's mood all the way down, but eventually it has to get to concrete stuff that's represented in the game.
Yeah. I almost would have liked it if it didn't get to that.
Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of the difference between how Hotline Miami 2 and Hotline Miami 1 tell their story.
Yeah.
Where Hotline Miami 2 does a lot of the same things, but has a literal, or has it's very obscure, but there is a thing that's going on with it that you can kind of figure out. Whereas Hotline Miami 1 is a little bit more of a tone piece, a little bit more of a mood piece. And it's a little bit between those two things, I think.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things. It's just worth noting that like for a game like podcast series where we like obscure storytelling and like games that have this kind of stuff, and we focus a lot on the story and lore in the Souls games.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I was missing this. I don't feel particularly enriched for knowing it.
Yeah. It's the 40 or 70% problem a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I just don't it's hard for me to care, and part of it is the fact that it's ninja frogs and stuff. Like it's part of it is just like some of the stuff just seems stupid to me.
Yeah.
So moving through the end game, you get to the and this is actually very direct, which I really love.
Yes.
This is something that like all video games could learn from, is to have a quiet moment before your climax. You head to the town, and you actually this little thing that you've been lighting up things for becomes an elevator. You head down, and you get to this kind of underground city that is full of like excavation gear.
Yeah, it's like a dig site almost.
Yeah.
Either this is where they dug and found some of the initial technology, or they tried to dig as far down as they could in order to hide this thing that would ultimately end the world. At the bottom, take your pick. The idea of digging too deep, the idea of like, oh shit, we've done way too much in the name of progress or science, or put whatever paint you want on this.
Yeah.
But you pass over these invisible bridges until you get to kind of this gigantic door that opens up to reveal this gigantic, corrupted, techno-organic, diamond almost. And when you set eyes upon this and step in, black rain starts to fall, and our final boss, Judgment, raises from the ground.
Yes. Who immediately kind of casts you off, and you go through a little coughing fit. I bring that up because you'll do it every single time you fight this guy.
Yep. And you're going to fight him a lot. This is a very hard fight.
It's pretty tough.
Yeah.
They should never have made that part of it happen over and over.
Yeah.
I just got very, very frustrated by doing that. But the boss fight, once I kind of got it, I ended up liking it.
Yeah.
So this is this big kind of amorphous shadow man creature, not the Shadow Man of the PS2 era, but like a different kind of Shadow Man.
Right.
So he kind of dashes around, which you have to dodge. He's actually like, his attacks are actually very simple. They're just hard to get the hang of.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell, he only has like 4 or something like that.
He has like 4 attacks, and his pattern is very predictable. Not the patterns of the attacks, because those are a little bit free floating, but like the order in which he does these discrete things is easy to control.
Yeah.
So he does these dashes. He will kind of create these bullet hell sprays, which, if you can stand just maybe a couple of Tomba widths from him and then just attack, you're going to send most of them back. That's where I did the most damage to him, actually, was like just bunching those reflections up. If you go long enough without hitting him, he'll actually stand in the center of the arena and kind of send out these venom spears from himself. And he'll do that and like overlay them, reducing the amount of safe space that you can stand on until you actually do damage to him.
Yeah. This was a big place. My upgraded kind of shotgun was very, very useful here, because you can get if you're close enough to him, and mixing up your range attacks with your melee attacks is very useful in this game. Kind of doing a mix. Well, shooting people while you're close to them is good. But the shotgun hits 5 times.
Yeah.
So it would do pretty decent damage. So I did pretty much what you're talking about, like doing a lot of the reflections. And then we get close to him and hammer on him and shotgun. The thing that got me the most was when he would go into the corner and kind of do that wide sweeping beam.
Yeah, his vomit beam.
Yeah, his huge vomit beam, which just took me a little while to figure out.
Yeah. Like the trick is to, hope that you're in a good enough position, dodge toward him and get behind him. And he is completely vulnerable from behind while he does that attack.
Yeah.
So like you just get him to start, and then you have then you have kind of carte blanche. The thing that go ahead.
If it was Dark Souls 3, he would immediately do a reflexive attack behind him.
You would just.
So I'm glad that you can actually, you can actually get behind him and use your pattern recognition to get in some damage rather than having it have an instant counter.
Yeah. The thing that got me was he'll occasionally turn the room dark and send down these 4 little options. It's not exactly clear what they do, but when the room lights up and he pops back into the room, they will send out these cascading waves of disco floors. So you want to destroy as many of the options as you can so that there's more safe room, and this gives you another opportunity to get some hits in. The place where this becomes very difficult is there, he has a lot of health. So you have to recognize these patterns and really, really kind of be on point with where you're positioned in order to kind of take advantage of the weak spots that he opens up. If you get on the bad side of this tide, then all of a sudden you're going to have to restart this thing.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I got it eventually. Like, this was not, for me, it wasn't like Nameless King style restarts. Like, this probably took me, I probably got him on my 4th or 5th.
Yeah.
If I had to guess.
Yeah. Like for me, it was about like 10 or so. Like, it was a process.
But it's tough. He's tough, and he's very punishing.
Yeah. I felt great about it, though. Like, something I was very refreshed. I was kind of bracing because of what Dark Souls has done to me. I was bracing for him to alter up his pattern in an appreciable way, like add in a new attack that, like, okay, I've fought tooth and nail to get him halfway down, in his health bar, and then all of a sudden I have fewer resources to get used to a new thing. No, really all that happens as he loses health is he just gets a little bit faster and more aggressive, cycles through these things a little bit more. If you can stay ahead, of the push, then you're good.
I was certain he was going to come back as another boss. Like, he was going to fall to the ground and then become like a big demon background boss thing.
Yeah.
And I admire the game's restraint to not do that.
Because
good job.
This fight is good and hard. Like, people have if a fight's reputation online for being like, oh, it took me forever and all of a sudden I was so rewarded. Like, if that's any measure, like, this thing is already good enough. Like, it's a good fight. Yeah.
And there's the upping the dosage of the how hard it is.
Yeah.
is not necessary. I felt very good about the balance of this.
It's a good judgment.
And I mentioned before, like, I actually liked all the bosses in this game quite a bit. Like, it's yeah,
and they're all like pretty. I mean, they're pretty basic, not in like a bad way, but like in a grokkable way, in an understandable way. And like I'm way down for that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and then we get to the end game, the kind of cutscenes here.
Yeah,
it fades away, and you destroy the gigantic heart that's suspended in the air. This is like the perfect cellular cell or whatever, perfect immortal cell or something it's called.
Yeah.
And after you've done so, your character dies.
Yep. Whoops! You didn't heal yourself. Yeah, it's just staggering. All of the light bridges have gone away. So then the jackal kind of takes you under his wing or his paw. Something I'm not quite sure, and leads you to this place that looks a lot like the bonfire and statue where you woke up.
Yeah. The jackal appears here and then disappears. Kind of goes through this door. This gigantic wellspring of energy thing that we saw in the beginning, the kind of trippy visuals part of it, disappears. It kind of dissolves.
And the final sequence has our drifter, instead of standing in a sea of blood, surrounded by floating bodies, is standing in a blue sea and then looks behind and sees that everything is okay. The sky is clear, no titans, no towers rising from the ground, but then starts bleeding from the gut and collapses. So his purpose served and things kind of reset. He dies, not in a cavern like he actually is, but seeing kind of the fruits of his labor.
And that's him, and that's Hyper Light Drifter. I felt, other than the fight part, partly because of the, I felt I ended up liking this a lot more than I did when I first started, like I mentioned.
Yeah.
Getting to the end and seeing the actual ending, I knew it was trying to pathos me, and I was not being pathosed.
Yeah.
Like, I had a weird empty feeling about the story of this while still enjoying those last fights quite a bit, the last bosses and stuff. And getting to the end where, like, you are you are in your zone, like getting all of the upgrades and dealing with the kind of, because there is a little bit, like I talked about the weird damage curve being a downhill, but there's a little bit of a spike at the end with more of the turrets, when you start reflecting things back at turrets if you need to.
Them being able to know that you would go to the south area last, let them go all out with it.
Yeah. And it just made me, I was like, oh, this is like, I've arrived. Like, this is, the most fun I'm having in the game with all of these verbs.
Yeah.
And then the game kind of ends. Like, getting there was still fun. Getting kind of more powerful is more fun. But the challenge and the doing the things in different orders doesn't help it. Like, there's just those little inelegancies did make me feel like, I was like, oh, that's pretty good. But I'm not like, man, do I want to play that fucking game again? Like, it wasn't, I didn't have that feeling for it.
Yeah. Even on easy, I feel like I have gotten as much as I'm going to get out of it. What I got was very good. Like it was kind of a growing pain to, meet the game on its own terms and understand that this is not, strictly a Souls-like thing. Again, bad on us for walking into it with that kind of baggage.
Yes, I should mention that too. That's like, I don't know if I made that clear that it's my fault. That like I came into it thinking that, because some people led me to believe it, but I also didn't.
I mean, it was all over the place, and that is that is one of the big problems with not one of the big problems. It is a problem with the Souls legacy, which is marketing and kind of like emphasizing possibly the wrong things. About a thing, or making these large stretches, to try and connect it to this, successful comparison, right?
Yeah.
And just like that is not the game's fault. That is that is the marketing's fault and kind of the review narrative around it and the things that we heard. Once I finally, got up to speed, like there was a time when I was like restarting the first area and going down to easier, where I was like, this is going to be a fucking nightmare to talk about, because just the like each of the individual things, like how do you talk about this wave-based arena kind of stuff in a way that is, along with our show. Like I was just anticipating all of these problems, it being a slog, but like once I met it on its terms and then got over the power hump, then all of a sudden it, kind of became its own thing. I think
the idea of a power hump.
Yeah.
So it's my finishing move when it comes to sex.
Yeah.
Brutality.
Yeah. Babality.
Very good.
Yep. But
no, often but like, I'm in the friendship. So
you got me off my point. No,
sorry.
I still think the game is incredibly successful aesthetically. It does a lot of what I want a video game to do in terms of mood and atmosphere, and kind of giving the barest possible trappings for going forward, and giving me good places to play around in. The overall story, who knows if that actually is in there. The fact that it doesn't kind of like waste a lot of your time with it probably works in its favor. You have to really dig for it. That said, I'm happy I'm not the person who did the digging to find out that it was just like, oh, science has gone too far. Yeah,
I mean, that's what it is. It's like it's hidden away, which is great. I don't feel like it adds a lot now that I know what it is.
Yeah.
Or even when the research I did, like I didn't find a video on it. Like there's a whole big thing. We ended up recording later than we thought today because I had a rough morning and stuff. So those stuff I planned on doing this morning was looking for YouTubes. Yeah. Didn't get a chance to.
Yeah.
But even the stuff I had read, it's like, oh, this is not firing my imagination in any real way.
Yeah.
This is not compelling. So that stuff didn't work. And the actual like mechanics of it, like it is a very good like little overhead action game.
Yep.
Like it just made me want like a different, that segregation, those inelegancies made me want a different genre for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not, a lot of people were like, oh, it's like very Zelda-like. I don't think it's very Zelda-like.
No.
Because that, it doesn't really feel like that to me. Like it made me want, the comparison, and I could be alone in this, but like it felt a lot like a lot of the arenas and stuff felt like Enter the Gungeon to me. Mm-hmm. And it made me want this control set with like a little roguelike thing with like these aesthetics, like toss the story, give me just kind of like a randomly like little roguelike set of this.
Yeah. Break this down to its component parts that can be mixed and matched, and then, build in kind of more mechanical mystery around it.
Because that's what the game does, is it's really good at having these individual little modular parts. Mm-hmm. And when it's not leaning into those, it either doesn't mix them well or it doesn't mix them at all, or it kind of stumbles.
Yeah.
I think. So like ended up being very glad I played it. I'm not in a hurry to play it again.
Yep.
But glad we did it for the show. I like it.
Yep.
It's very beautiful.
Yeah.
I had a screenshot of it as my backdrop for a little while, which is, high praise. And then now I don't. So, yeah. So it's, super cool. And I'm really curious as to what this team will do next. I hope it doesn't go the way like people were just kind of like, that's too easy. Like punish me more.
Yeah, no.
I don't need the Neoing of it. Did you see?
That's where we break with this line of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's it's a tricky thing for this show specifically, and just kind of our playing plans. Like somebody tweeted, Trent from who we met in Austin, tweeted me today where it's like this interview or this quote from an article thing on Neo where it's like, yeah, this is the hardest Souls thing we've ever played. Like this, Dark Souls does nothing to prepare us for this. This is the hardest game we've done, for something. And I was like, oh, we won't cover it, I guess. Like I have no interest in that. Like frustration is a currency, and I don't want to spend that on that.
Yeah, like I ordered it. Like it's coming on Tuesday. I mean, this past Tuesday when you listen to it, like it's on its way. Yeah, but like I'm skeptical based on my experience. Although I totally spaced and didn't play the most recent demo. Like again, who knows? So who knows if that is journalistic hyperbole, because
100%
people have talked about like, oh, Dark Souls 2 is the hardest Souls ever. Like I mean, like in places, but maybe you're just talking about that because that is the thing you're expected to talk about, and it articulates in an interesting way, and it's not as like it's not as cock and ball torture as you're selling it as.
The difficulty thing is super tricky. Like I want to try Neo. That doesn't mean this isn't me saying, hey, we're not going to do it. Yeah. It means that if it is as frustrating as the demo was, and it's as frustrating as it says, like I don't want to do a large treatment on it because I don't want to commit to conquering it.
Yeah. Because
I don't want to have that experience of just like, I'm going to die like 1,000 fucking times on this thing, get really, really frustrated.
Yeah.
It's not what I come to these things for. We've been down that road a lot, but we don't actually know what it'll be. What's interesting though about that, everything is different, because I know people who really love this game who don't think it's hard at all.
Right.
I talked to people who, after we did Momodora, who were like, oh, Momodora was too hard. And I was like, I don't think Momodora is hard at all.
Yeah.
So it really depends on who you are and how you play, I guess.
Wait a minute, you think that sauce is spicy? Come on.
Well, exactly. But it's more like there's no unit for it. There's not like literally a scientific measurement of spiciness. It's not just
Scoville. Come on.
No. I mean, I'm saying it's not like that. It's not like spiciness. It doesn't map 1-to-1 because things can objectively be more spicy.
Okay, I totally misunderstood what you were saying. I thought you were saying spiciness was subjective.
No. I'm saying it's not spiciness because spiciness is not subjective.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
It's
let's shake hands and make up, buddy.
Yeah. It's just weird.
Yep.
It's weird to be in this gulf of like the ultra challenging game golf.
Yep.
Yeah. But the Type Rally Drifter, I like it. I recommend it.
C+, we're good.
What are we? I give it.
I'm just. So this is me cargo culting. Somebody said that was a thing in You Talk and You Too to me, so I just figured I'd try that joke on for a while.
It's kind of funny because I saw that it was on our Slack. And like the joke is never like just C+. Like it became that, but the initial joke was just kind of like, yeah, it's the highest grade I'll give it. It's above average. Like there's more to it around it.
Right. Yeah.
So when he made that joke, it seemed really mean because it didn't have that context.
Yeah. Well, I saw that joke and I was like, oh, what can we do better? Like, tell me.
Yeah. It was but it was just it didn't have that whole context.
Yeah.
So after this, right after this will be the response episode, and then it will either be an off media thing, either a comic or another top 10 or something like that, or we'll start Salt and Sanctuary depending on how far we're getting it.
Yep.
That is our next big game we're covering.
Yes. So check that out. That is on PS4. That is on PC. I believe those are the only two. What?
Is it on PC?
Yeah, it's on Steam.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did not know.
Yeah, I fired it up to just kind of check and see if I'm totally not doing like a rhyme or something. The interface patch has actually made the game much more playable for me. The text is readable now if you scale it up to 150%. So if you were like me, that is there and not in the way anymore.
That's useful. And playing it on PC is kind of cool because you can remap the controls. I don't know if you can do that on the PS4. but it is hard to get used to attacking with the square button. Looking forward to that. The DLC came out. Have we done an episode or recorded since the DLC was announced?
The DLC for
Dark Souls 3?
Oh, for Dark Souls 3? No, we haven't, actually.
Yeah. So that's been announced. And we know what that is. That's the Ringed City. And it is it's going to answer all the questions we don't have about Manus or about the Pygmy and demons.
Yep.
So it's going to answer some questions about some things that we know about.
I mean, some things that haven't been addressed since the first game, so yay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they need to be addressed. We'll see. I'm trying not to be pessimistic. I really didn't like Ashes of Roundel. So comes out in March. We probably won't. Our episode on that won't come out as soon as the game comes out, or as soon as the DLC comes out, because we need to play it and stuff.
Yeah.
But,
So I mean, just understand that is waiting for us, and the plan for the show is ever evolving as things kind of come together. So we thank you for your patience. Usually, we have a little bit more certainty about what we're going to do next at this time. Who would have thought that the DLC would come out around the time that the sequel would have? Like we're firmly at the point where Bloodborne 2 would have come out. If they were working on that. So who knows?
Who knows? And nothing else has been announced.
Nope.
Obviously, so we don't know what up. So thank you very much for listening. If you have things to say about Salt, Duckfeed.tv/contact. If you want to support us, Patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv is the way to do it. Cole, where can people find you on Twitter?
People can find me on Twitter at Kole Ross. The spelling of my name is really weird. KOLEROSS. And I tweet little nonsensical jokes mostly, and sometimes dismal things about the state of the world today. So I just kind of keep you on your toes.
Yep. And I'm at Gary Buh, GARYBUH, and I mostly just tweet the latter. It's mostly just screaming into the void because everything is awful.
Yep. Don't oversell him, man.
Yeah. Trump released a statement today that women in the White House need to dress like women. Oh, great. Like, I understand that's minor, but how cartoonishly awful can you goddamn fucking be?
Wait a minute. What the fuck? Is that an actual thing?
Yeah. There's no jokes anymore. We're post joke, Cole. It doesn't.
No, I thought that you were being hyperbolic. Something people can take or leave this kind of stuff. Like, our jokes about this stuff and any of the observations, even with a 4 or 5 day lead, are immediately outdated by the time we say them. So it may not be the stick to games thing that stops us from doing this. Is the fact that things are getting so precipitously worse at such a rate that anything we could say will immediately be irrelevant by the time people hear it.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. It's not going to get me to stop commiserating about things being awful.
Oh, no, definitely not. No, I just that is not what I was pushing for.
Yeah. No, I know. But just what a world.
Yep.
I wish I vote Titans 2020. Bring them back. Titans Judgment 2020.
Try not to forget the Titans.
Hot pipe.
If you want to support us, go to patreon.com/DuckFeedTV. Although why you would want to, I don't know. Oh, I know why. Because we can do cool new shows with it and stuff.
Yeah.
And also talk about hot pipe.
And we all pray that we will have far more soon.
I did the Patreon sting earlier. If you were adding that as the thing.
Okay. I thought we missed it. Sorry.
No. I brought it.
All right. Well, we got it twice. It's fine. Hop.